Medicinal purposes.
Now you have counselling. I was happily having a few more when the big guy in the enormous overcoat from the foyer comes running upstairs. And Mr. Arnold, can you come and talk to these kids? It had gone out on television, and now these kids wanted to break my record. And you have these funny Model Ts with big V8 engines and nothing on, with all the engines shaking all over. Well, there's three or four of these buckets, whatever you call them, sitting outside. I had to tell them it was all a spoof. They were going to complain to somebody. So that was the introduction. Then we drove it across to California and repeated the operation. Now, in California, we had a problem. Bob Charman, this incredible guy who put Lotus on the map in California, and got in his wife used to leave on Saturday lunchtime to go up to the little cabin they got on the lake, and he would leave 2 or 3 hours later. 2 or 3 hours later, he gets to the end of an enormous traffic jam, and when he gets to the head of it, his wife and 2 kids have been burnt to death in their car. Now, I defy anyone to carry on running an importer ship in a situation like that. So he hit the booze, got out of trust with his cars, because we found that a British bank were financing the cars and sold the bank across the road from the showroom. And so therefore, when he sold a $10 Lotus, he owed 20,000, he owed 16 or something, so it wasn't a good deal. So I had to set about sacking Bob Charman. Not a nice thing to do to a friend, not a nice thing to do to a guy when he's been hit below the belt. But I go back to the fact that California was paying the wages of probably 1/5 of our team back in the factory. So I thought, where the hell are we going to replace him for Bob? So I hit upon Chicago, the guy in California for British sports cars. So I did a bit of planning and arranged to arrive at his showroom the Tuesday after Indianapolis 500, hoping we'd win. So in Dale Carnegie style, it comes out of the book, page 906, I went in to see Shell and said, Mr. Cavalli, I have great respect for what you've done for the sports car market, for British cars here in California. I understand it all started when you came back from the Korean War, saw an MG, liked it, and with all your energy you put it on the market. Do you know a young man who had the energy that you used to have in those days, who would like to put Lotus on the map? And he said, what about me? Which was absolutely in the script. Now this is where I have the greatest admiration for you importers, your importers over here. He then said, okay, as a sign of my integrity, I'll order 25 new Elans now. I will order $25,000 worth of essential parts now. I will buy the whole of Bob Chalmers' inventory and clear the debt. And I will buy whatever parts Bob Charman wants to sell me or what he wants to keep, and I'll keep Bob Charman on as a dealer. Now that is a degree of integrity that you don't often find in the motor trade. And Cavalli kept Lotus on the map and did a wonderful job with us. And I'll leap forward a bit. My +2 are broken down in England. I'm on a train, and there's 2 guys, it's a train with a table in the middle, there's 2 guys opposite me, and they've got blueprints all over the place, and I can see that they're going to put a BMW 2002 engine into a front-engine sports car. So I thought, you know how you read your paper like this? Or with a pretty girl, you make a hole in it and hold it like this. But they happen to say, I think that's over the top on the budget that Andy Regalia has given to us. Now, I knew Andy Regalia, he was the financial controller at Cavalli's operation. But Shell actually said to me he'd like to become a manufacturer. So I put two and two together, and when I got back to the office, I called Shell in California, and I said, Shell, why don't you use our new 2-litre 16-valve, fully California compliant engine in your new car? And there was a silence that must have cost Lotus $100. Before, in most Alan Cavalli manner, he said, shit, who told you that? and that was that. Years later, when Lotus were going to build a little Elan with a Toyota engine, almost a similar situation happened in a restaurant. And I was able to publish in the club magazine that Lotus were going to put a Toyota engine there, and then the Lotus staff were all got together and told them, no, they weren't sure how the news had got out, but no one was to ever mention, ever again, the fact that the Toyota engine was going to go into a car. And one of my close contacts phoned me up and he said, 2 days after the meeting, you will not believe it. A trolley was pulled right the way through the office. In a big cardboard container, it said, Toyota 2-litre 16 valve this way up. So anyway, we get back moving. We've gone all over the place. And although Bob Chapman at one time was threatening to sue us, the time also came to dispose of poor old Jim Spencer here in the middle. And in those days, you could do two things. You could sue a manufacturer for taking away your contract, even though you hadn't performed. But you could also get an injunction to stop any cars coming into his territory until such time as it was resolved. And no Porsches came into one part of this area for several years under that similar sort of injunction. And so I spoke to this guy, but I had been having long conversations with a guy from Kansas City, Bill Stein. Bill Stein's name was. Bill Stein said he could put all the whole lot together, and Bill Stein took me down there, and he took me to a bank manager who said, oh yeah, whatever Mr. Stein wants, we let him have it, and the whole bit, and then there's somebody else, oh, Stein's the real God's gift. And this began to be a bit sort of too good to be true. He never took me to anybody. We saw the usual, and I won't tell you how many thousands of these I've seen, artist impressions of what the Lotus showroom would look like when we build it after you've given us the contract. Whereas we would only deal with the showroom like this that was already here. So anyway, I said to Stein, well, two things. Obviously, I think it's checked out by the Society of Motor Manufacturers and Traders man in New York. Meanwhile, I've got a bit of trouble with Jim Spencer, who wants to sue us. And I'm in New York a week later, and Jim Spencer rings up and says, Graham, you got me wrong. I don't want no trouble. I'm not going to sue you. I wouldn't dream of suing you. Let's just part company and say, put it down to experience. He said, I had this guy Stein on the phone, and he tells you what a good job he's going to do. And I thought, yes, a good job with your face as well. Then it came through that Mr. Stein had been pulling a wonderful thing for years. He got the Triumph distributorship, and he'd go to some little village gas station at the end of the rail line and say, congratulations, you are the new Triumph distributor for this area. Please sign here for your first 12 cars, your parts, your tools, and your corporate identity, and you haven't got to put any money down, just sign this bank loan. And of course the guy knew he'd just been set up by the mafia, and of course as soon as he got the cars he sent them to the auction and never heard from anybody again. And he'd done it with Triumph and he'd done it with Jaguar. So now he decided he would do it with Lotus. We just found out in time. Unfortunately we had Bill Brack doing a wonderful job up in Canada, and he came down and filled in the Midwest for quite a while. So that was that. Back in England, I had, God, what if this was forward thinking? I thought it wouldn't be a bad idea if we had a second string to our bow and we would import a Japanese car. This is 1966, unheard of, but I can see which way they were going. And I went to see a representative in London of Hino. Hino made a version of the Renault 8 or 10 or whatever it was. Nice job, very well finished, and could be landed in Britain very cheaply indeed. There was quite a car shortage. So Hino said they would come and see me. My office was at the ground floor, the highest window was the top half of that door, inside out. And in those days we always had a lot of fun in the sales operation. I used to say when we stopped pulling chairs out from under old ladies, we ceased to be an effective sales operation. Sales have got to be fun. They've got to be fun. We would make our own fun. And Chinese restaurants had just come to England, and therefore we were talking to each other on the internal phone in our imitation Chinese, and then we had a German night at the local pub, and we all spoke to each other in German. So it was all fun. But the fact was that these two guys came over from Japan to talk to me about importing Hinos, and get a phone call from London Airport. We are at London Airport, you'll come get us, yes? I said, no, get a bloody taxi. And I thought it was some guy in another part of the building. And of course, an hour later, an hour later, I hear a diesel taxi outside my window, door opens, door closes, no one gets out. Then my office door opens and two little men come in. Mr. Arnold. Mr. Arnold, you're a very hard man to deal with. I was asked earlier how we got the cars onto the television programs, like the Avengers and the Prisoner. Well, I set about trying to find a directory of film directors, and there's no such thing. And then, thinking more simply, because my father used to say, seek the simple solution, I realised that we have a publication every week called the TV Times, which gives every television programme what's on and who produced it. So I wrote to all the television producers in the UK and said, next time you're making a film, if you want a Lotus, you're welcome. We'll deliver it, polish it, clean it, and take it away and bring it back next time. It's not yours for keeps. It's not yours for the weekend. We did lose one-to-one programme, and then we had that resulted in very quickly in the Avengers. Then the Prisoner wanted to have an Elan before the first Avengers had come out, so we had to talk him out of that and get him into a 7, which he was not sorry about. And on the British market, we got dozens and dozens of television films running and long-term films. Things like Harrow House that had 2 Europas, and right through to the Bond films. I don't think it does you a lot of good, but it's good PR and it impresses your other co-directors. But the fact remains that we got these cars into these films by a simple ruse, just writing to me. I then extended that to writing to every professional photographer I could find. Just saying, if you want to borrow a car, we'll deliver it, clean it, position it, and bring it back, i.e. you don't get it for the weekend. And top quality fashion photographers said, thank you, great service, we'll use you. People who wanted the car for a weekend knew we got them sussed out. And we got a lot of really good fringe coverage. We also spotted that a motor show is where lots and lots of serious, overpaid PR men come rushing along to try and grab what they can get of the small amount of extra media that is allocated to the show. When you have the Chicago Auto Show here, the local papers probably give 2 more pages for 4 days to what's at the show. And yet 100 PR men trying to get a slice of that. And I realised you weren't going to get a slice of that with serious stuff. So we came out with our annual motor show joke. The first time you've ever seen this, we did a Lotus 51 forward and forward with headlamps, mudguards, silencer, the lot. This was the single man's ultimate motor car. Took it to the motor show. They hated us, and they chucked it out and said, "No, you can't have single seaters at the motor show." So they didn't worry us because we got all the television, all the radio, the whole lot. The next year, Jaguar's Alvis armoured vehicles department launched an Alvis armoured fighting vehicle. So I thought, we'll have some of this. So I took a 61 and painted it in the colours of a Hummer, with green and sand, put big cross-country tyres on it, put a big spade on one side and a jerry can on the other, 2 machine guns on the front, 2 big First World War machine guns on the front, and we then got a beautiful coloured girl with a bandolero of bullets and a sort of cap like the Australians wear, a Girl Scout hat, the old-fashioned one. And we launched the Lotus armoured fighting vehicle. For certain armies, 4 speeds forward and 1 in reverse. And for other armies, 4 speeds backwards and 1 forward.